Welcome to this special presentation of Investing in Psychedelics, brought to you by the Canadian Securities Exchange in partnership with CFN Media.
All right, now we've done it. We've done a whole thing called Investing in Psychedelics. I'm James Black. I'm with Serin, my colleague at the Canadian Securities Exchange. And today we want to share with you the 5 things that we learned about investing in psychedelics. And this is based on, I don't know, Anna, how many events did we do this week? How many panels? I've lost track. What did we do? What did we create?
The live event was 6 panels in itself. And I think we had upwards of 20 interviews leading up to the event.
Yeah, it was insane. So all that content I will link above if you're watching on YouTube. We've got it sitting there, and there's still more stuff coming. So just stay tuned. But for today, five things. And the 5 things that we learned, we're going to start with number 1, which is, I didn't realize this, Anna, but there's now 2 generations of psychedelics that we've classified, Generation 1 and Generation 2. Can you very succinctly tell me what that means when we look at investing in psychedelics? What is a Generation 1 and what's a Generation 2 psychedelic?
So Generation 1 is the, original compound. So specifically, if you're talking about psilocybin and mushrooms, just like the cannabis space, you're not able to patent, a natural product. What you can do is rearrange some of the molecules to create a different experience. Let's say they want to shorten an experience or a trip, for a better sense of words. So they can start working around with the molecules and try and create a bit of a different product that'll work better for them. That becomes a Generation 2, and that you actually can patent. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of companies out there playing around with the molecules, trying to create a different product, and then running to the patent office.
Right. And we got to interact with a lot of investors during the last 3 weeks building this content, and ultimately the investing in psychedelics sessions that we did on Wednesday, the 6 of them. Now let's talk about what investors are actually looking for. And the one prevailing theme that I saw was that they want science. This is a science and fact-based investment thesis that they're going in with. They don't want to hear about how you can use mushrooms to, put in your food and make you feel better for a couple minutes, like anecdotal stuff. They want lab-tested, fact-based investment thesis. Do you agree with me on that? Is that the sense you got?
I do. Well, I will clarify one point there, because that was something that was new to me. There's something called a functional mushroom and something called, a psychedelic mushroom. And so we're going to see a lot of the functional stuff come to market as well. And just, again, back to the cannabis space, it's kind of like CBD versus, THC focused products. You're going to see a lot of the functional stuff come as well. It's going to be in your creams. It's going to be in your coffees. It's going to be in tinctures. But on the psychedelic side, yeah, absolutely. And I hope investors are coming to the market looking for the science. Make sure you're doing your due diligence when you're looking at it and seeing what the science is being created in the background.
Yeah, that's right. I think the emphasis first is on medical versus any other sort of use case. But we'll see. Things are just starting. And when you did mention cannabis, this is different. This feels a lot different than cannabis. I know a lot of people credit cannabis for giving psychedelics some airtime here in the investment world. But one major distinction between cannabis and psychedelics, and I'll let you tell people what that is.
One major difference. Well, there's lots of major differences. Listen, the major difference is that psychedelics are not in a legal framework at this point. There are some jurisdictions across the world, and I don't know all of them, but I know the Netherlands is one of them, specifically for what's called a truffle. And I believe it's even a loophole in their jurisdiction how that's legal. It's because it's the base of the mushroom that's grown underground. I think what comes above ground is still illegal. As well, Jamaica has a legal framework. As far as even medicinal at this point, forget recreational, it's not legal for a doctor to prescribe psilocybin as a medical treatment. So that really, at the end of the day, that is the major difference between the two.
Yes, thank you. And we talked about investment again. I'll go back to that theme for a minute because it relates to, this is going to have some real medical veracity to it. Big investments, big institutional investors are not really at the table just yet. I mean, they're obviously watching, but a lot of the deals that we saw are looking for $2 to $3 to $4 million to further research, earlier stage research, to get through maybe a phase 2 situation, and not yet quite at that phase 3. Can you just describe what it means to go from a phase 2 to phase 3, and maybe when you start to see institutions and even big pharma come in as investors?
Well, I think, so phase one traditionally is the creation of a compound. So phase one is we believe that if we put this and this and this together, it will solve this ailment or it will treat this. Because these drugs already exist and there's already historical data on them, a lot of these, or a lot of the research and development that will be done will enter into what's called a phase two. A phase two is typically, and I hope I'm saying this correctly after I learned so much, but phase two is typically a clinical trial. So they'll create a trial. It'll be incredibly restrictive to what the trial is, who can participate, what they're looking for, the variables. And phase three will become a bigger scale. So a lot of them are saying that it's one step further, and that's why we might be seeing more of it in the small cap space than at the pharmaceutical level. The pharmaceutical level is typically where you'll see these companies really build out that phase one, and that takes years and several trials. So we are jumping in feet first at kind of the next level, which I think is an opportunity for investors.
Absolutely. And we mentioned big pharma. So we posed it to one of our panels. You did. Are they even looking at this? And yes, everyone said yes. But they're going to have to do things differently. Typical big pharma is to give you a pill once or twice a day, repeat every day that treatment for a long time, maybe to mask your symptoms or treat the surface level of your symptoms. What a lot of the medical practitioners behind the psilocybin, not psilocybin necessarily, but say ketamine, they're saying you have to come into a clinic and you have to spend 5, 6, 7, maybe half a day in this clinic getting treatment, which doesn't really fit the pharma model. So any thoughts on how you see that playing out, how the treatment plans are going to have to correlate to what big pharma is going to want or maybe not want to do as they try to treat clients that are using these drugs?
Yeah, I mean, look, our CEO said it best in my interview with him is this just doesn't meet their model. So what my personal view, and I could be wrong, but my personal view is that what you're going to see is the pharma companies actually going after those generation 2 products that are being created and very much to fit within their business model. So it's going to be Gen 2 stuff that they're looking at where they can offer up something that will fit within that business plan, where they can create drugs that's given to a patient out of clinic. And it can be that continuous revenue stream. So you're going to see them jump in probably at that point. What a lot of the guys I talked to said is that they're already looking at it, even on kind of what it is now, the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. But that's happening in the background. You're not going to see a huge amount of investment. My wonder is if we're going to see it kind of like the mining sector, where you're going to see a lot of these guys go out and do the real kind of groundwork, create clinical trials, create a product, and then get gobbled up by the big pharma companies, which at the end of the day is a win for investors and for the companies too, if that's the way it rolls out. Absolutely.
And public markets like the Canadian Securities Exchange are standing by, waiting to help these companies raise public venture capital to further these ambitions and to potentially become the next star drug for some big pharma portfolio, or who knows? We have a lot of different businesses that are going to come into play. We have companies that are doing truffles in the Netherlands, which has got some legal use cases there for truffles specifically, and then other treatment plans and places where people are treating it like rehab tourism and things like that. So. Wow, there's a lot going on here. Anna, you did an amazing job hosting all this content. I want to thank you again. I want to thank everyone who's watching. Check out all the content, Investing in Psychedelics on CSE TV. We covered it about as thoroughly as I think you can by anyone right now. We've done a lot of work on this and we're really proud of it. And we're looking forward to seeing what happens next. So Anna, thanks again. This was 5 things that we learned from investing in psychedelics. I'm sure we'll learn many, many more as we keep digging into this. So thanks again. Thanks for watching, and subscribe below, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, James.